Can you hear me? Think you should be. Okay, I think you should be able to hear me now. I think I screwed something up on my end, so hopefully you should be able to hear me now. So let me know if you can hear me. And I'm hoping that it's loud enough because I don't feel like it's loud in my ear. So just to give you a little summary, my computer was acting up and it was running really slow. And I had to basically reinstall everything. So I had to set everything up from scratch. So hopefully the sound is great and you can hear me. If not, I will definitely fix it in the next Monday critique, because I could definitely hear the sounds is not too loud in my ear. Okay. All right. So with that said, since you could at least hear something, I'm going to proceed. So guys, thank you for joining the Monday Critique show. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Monday. I'm having a wonderful Monday. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be critiquing two wonderful images that was submitted by one gentleman. It just so happened to be that he was submitted an image back to back. So we're going to be reviewing his image. And if you guys wanted to submit your images to be critiqued on the Monday Critique show, I will show you guys how to do so. It's a group called Fine Art Photography and Modeling, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do so right now. Okay, so like I said, the group is called Fine Art Photography and Modeling, and in that group is where you can actually submit your images to be critiqued. Now, the way you find it on Facebook is called Fine Art Photography and Modeling, so if you just do a search for that, you'll be able to find it. Now, one thing I would say is when you're joining the group, it will ask you 3 questions, and if you don't answer those 3 questions, you pretty much won't get into the group. But so just answer those basic 3 questions. Is not, it's not asking for any personal information or anything like that. It's some basic informations that we're asking for. So just answer those 3 questions and you'll get straight into the group. Now, how do you submit your images to be critiqued? There's a specific pinned post at the top of the group right here, as you can see it. And on that pinned post, there in the comment section, you just go to the comment section, and the last comment, you just basically type in the settings that you took that picture with, and you also upload the specific image, and then you should be good to go. And then I basically review these images in chronological order. So the first come, first serve, basically. So that's how you submit your images to be critiqued. And like I said, we have 2 wonderful images here to be review today, and I'm gonna just jump straight into it. Now, as I go through these images, guys, please put your comments in the chat window about if you agree, disagree, or if you have a different viewpoint about what I'm saying about these images, because it will just help with the conversation, and it will help not only me, but it will also help the creator of this image to grow, and it would also help everyone else that's watching these videos to also grow. So please drop those comments in there. Let's have a conversation, because like I said, it would be very helpful to everyone involved. Okay, so let's begin. So this image and the other image that we're going to review as well was both submitted by Mario Fernando. Now, he took this image with a Canon 60D, and it was with a 24-105 lens. He had an f4, he shot it at f4. ISO was at 100. The shutter was at 1/200 of a second. And he used one Canon speed light with a silver umbrella at full power, camera right. Okay, so those were the particular settings. Now let's jump into the critique of this particular image. Now, when I critique these images, I generally look at these images at 3 specific things, which is light, pose, and composite. Sorry, guys. Light, pose, composition. Okay, so those are the 3 things that I generally look at, and then also try to look at the post-production as well. In this particular image, we're going to dive into the post-production a little bit, and I'm going to show you guys some Photoshop stuff that I did with the image, and hopefully it will help you guys grow. Okay, so first thing we want to start with is light. Now, I particularly do not shoot any type of sports type of images, so that's not really my forte. Now, I did do some research into how people generally go about shooting physical types of portraits and stuff like that. Not for this particular image, but in the past I have did some basic research on it, just in the event that I ever would shoot these types of things. So in general, what I found in the past is that for the most part, when you're lighting athletes that are have a little bit of bulk muscle and stuff like that, and you want to showcase that muscle, what you want to really do is basically have your light coming from above, and what that will create, or what that would allow you to emphasize on the athlete, is basically their muscles, right? So if you're shooting from above, then what happens is the light will hit like on the top of her chest. Well, let's use our abs for example. So the light will hit on the top of her abs, and then it will go into shadow, and so on and so forth. So basically it will just pronounce those muscles that the bodybuilder in this case would like to showcase, right? Without you having to do much dodging and burning. So that's one of the things that you would want to do when you're working with, athletes or people that are bodybuilders and stuff like that. So when I was looking at this image, that's basically the things that was going through my head. Like, where did he light this image? Like, how did he light it? So as I'm analyzing this image, I'm looking at it, and it looks like that he lit this image pretty much from camera right, like he indicated, directly camera right. And it didn't seem like the light was elevated above the subject much. And you could tell by that, because if you look at the work that was done here, I guess mostly in post-production, you could see most of this stuff was pretty much emphasized in post to try to bring out the person's abs and stuff like that. So I would say from a lighting perspective, that's pretty much where you want to have your light. Overall, I think from a lighting perspective, I think he did a fairly good job in trying to highlight the person's face. But as far as the, emphasizing the muscles and stuff like that, in my opinion, I just don't think it was done properly in order to capture the person's muscles, emphasize it more. So that's all I would have to say with respect to, there's one other thing I would like to say about this. Actually, two other things I would like to say about this with respect to the lighting. One, I feel like she's getting lost in the background. And so one of the things or two things I would have done is I would have added a light behind the subject so that she could be separated a little bit from the background. And then I would also add another light on the side here so it could just highlight her arm a little bit here. And those are the two things I would have done with respect to the lighting, just to help, separate the subject a little bit from the background. Okay. So again, guys, if you have any comments about, the lighting in this particular image, drop those comments down below so that we can have a conversation about it. Drop your comments down below if you have, issues or comments about composition, posing, and the post-production that we're going to dive into. All right, so I'm going to look here at the comments really quick to see if anybody put any comments about what I had to say. And it doesn't look like anyone had any comments about that. So I will move on to the next thing here, which is the pose. Now, like I said at the top of this, I don't generally work with bodybuilders or athletes and stuff like that. So from a posing perspective, I suppose it's the pose, the physique that she have here is fine. I don't think I could tell a bodybuilder how to position themselves. I probably would pose this in a little bit more of an elegant way, which wouldn't suit this situation. Okay, so I think from a posing perspective, it's fine. She's trying to emphasize her muscles, which is cool. The only thing I would say is that her eye position is a little bit off. For me, it's a little bit too high up. If you wanted her to look off to her right, I would have just bring her eyes down just a little bit so it's more facing in this direction more as opposed to facing up. So that's the only thing I would have done here from a posing perspective for the subject in this particular case. Okay. All right. So let's move on to, and again, guys, just a quick reminder, if you see anything from a posing perspective or any issues that you're seeing from lighting, just drop those comments down below. All right, so now let's move on to the composition in this image. So from a compositional perspective, I think in this particular case, the composition is overall, I think it's fine. But here's a couple of things that we could do to probably enhance it just a little bit more. The first thing that I think when I'm looking at this image is the background. So obviously I'm guessing he's shooting here in a gym, which is fine. So the choice of the background here is just, for me, is just a little bit distracting when I look at this image. So I think picking a different background would definitely help in trying to isolate the subject. If you wanted a black background, you probably would just put like a backdrop in there just to get a black background, so that background is not as distracting. The other thing that's a little bit distracting to me, well, not distracting really, but you could probably correct this in post because everybody doesn't get their levels correct, even in, shooting in camera and stuff like that. You could try as much as you want, but sometimes you don't get it right. So the other thing that you could do here is straighten this image just a little bit. Right now, the image is not straightened. So I would say just go in post and basically straighten up this. And I'll show you guys that with this particular image, what I did with it in post, and you could see. So from a compositional perspective, those are the only two things that I see, which is the choice of background and just the levels on this image. Those are the only two things. But other than that, I think overall, I just think your composition is fine. So if anyone has any questions about that or comments about that or disagreements, drop those down below and we'll have a conversation about it. So moving on to the last thing that I don't really talk about much when I'm critiquing images, but I'm going to talk about it here now. And that is post-production. Okay. So I'm going to close this out really quick and I'm going to bring up my Photoshop and let me zoom out on this here. Okay. So what I want to talk about in this particular image is dodge and burn. Okay. One of the things that really would help with this image is some dodging and burning. Okay, so when I'm looking at this image, the one thing that jumps out at me is the transition in between light and shadows. Okay, now I put two examples in here. There's a video, I'll put the link in here after this live broadcast, that I did about dodging and burning, and I put the two examples that I use in that video here. Okay, so the first thing here is frequency separation and dodging and burning. So when I'm doing dodging and burning, especially when I'm doing these types of dodging and burning, which is basically correcting the transition between lights and shadows on a person's face, body, or whatever. Right now I'm concentrating on our face, not necessarily the rest of her body, but you basically would apply this technique throughout the entire image on your subject. Okay, so one of the things I did here is I did frequency separation, which people will normally do, but I did a little bit of a faster frequency separation, not the one that I would typically do. And then also did like a dodging and burning. Okay, so one of the things I want to show you guys is how do you see the transitions between lights and shadows, right? Because that's primarily what I'm focusing on when I'm doing the dodging and burning. Now this is not like the heavy dodging and burning that you will normally do to bring out more features. This is more like trying to hide, not hide, but basically correct the transitions between light and shadow. So this is like the light version of dodging and burning and not the heavy version of dodging and burning, if that makes sense. Okay, so first of all, how do you see it? Okay, so it's sometimes for me, I've been doing this for like a year and a half now, doing this type of dodging and burning, which I call it a quote unquote light version of dodging and burning. The problem that I had initially was seeing the transition, like seeing where the lights and shadows needed to be. Now, the way that you could see it, what helps you like a checker, is converting the image, or not converting rather, but putting a black and white layer in your image. Okay, so if you put this black and white layer in your image, what ends up happening is you get to see the transitions between light and shadows a lot more. So I'm hoping that you guys could see that. You could see that transition here. So if I turn on, I basically marked this up a little bit before the live broadcast. So if I turn on what I mark up here, okay, let me zoom in here a little bit more so you guys could see it. Okay. Okay. So I marked up this image just so you guys could see what I'm trying to let you guys see. Okay. Which is the transitions that I think that needs to be corrected just a little bit. So if you look here, you have this shadow here, you have this shadow here. So basically what you're trying to do is blend this shadow so it can blend in with the light part on this image. That's what you're trying to do throughout this entire image. You're just trying to look for any dark spots that's living with where a light spot is. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get rid of that dark spot so that it doesn't be as distracting. Okay, so that's what you're doing with this light dodging and burning, as I call it, not the heavy dodging and burning, but the light dodging and burning. So you're just looking for these slight variation between the darkness and the shadows. And if I turn on, so let me turn on my dodging and burning that I did. Okay. So if I turn on my dodging and burning, let me take off the black and white, take that off. So if I show you the before, okay, so that was the before image, right? And this was my dodging and burning, what I call my little light dodging and burning, okay? So there's still this area right here that's a little bit that needs to be corrected, but that can be corrected with the healing brush or the stone or the clone stamp tool and stuff like that. So I didn't want to touch that with the clone stamp, or because that wasn't the purpose of this. It's just to show you guys the difference between using dodging and burning or not. Okay, so if I zoom out a little bit more and then I show you guys again the before, that's the before, right? That's how the image was, and after. Another thing that I want to show you guys is that, oops, that went in too far. And bear in mind, this is not the full quality image. This is just the image I downloaded off of Facebook. So you won't get the full resolution here. However, what I want to show you is with dodging and burning, you're able to retain a lot of the texture on the subject's face. Well, not retain some, you retain all of the texture on the subject's face. So if I show you again, this is the before, this is before, and this is after. So as you can see, all of the texture from that original image is still there. It's not gone, it's still there. Now, let me show you guys the frequency separation, and let me zoom out. So with frequency separation, which is what typically folks may do to try to get rid of the dodging and burning, well, try to not do the dodging and burning, right? So if you do just the frequency separation, as you can see, there's not much impact there, right? But if I turn on my dodging and burning, look at the difference. There's a lot more difference utilizing the dodging and burning over the frequency separation. So if I turn off the dodging and burning, I turn it back on. So you could see the difference is very strong. Okay, this is just with frequency separation. This is the before and this is after. before, after. So the difference is very, very small. Okay, and then you also lose texture when you utilize in dodging and burning. Some, if you do it too heavy. I know a lot of people like to use frequency separation, myself included. When I'm in a rush, I definitely utilize it. Another thing that I'll skip that one for later. But anyways, that's it. That's all I wanted to say about this image. So before we move on to the next image, let me just go into the comment section and see if anyone has any comments about what I had to say about that particular image. And then we will move on. Can you hear me now? Is it better? I think I fixed it. Perfect. So it only went out when I switched to myself. So you guys heard everything that I said when I was sharing my screen, correct? Okay, awesome. Oh man, I thought I was gonna have to go re-record that whole entire thing. That was super annoying. All right, awesome. So you guys have any questions about what you heard earlier about the posing, the post-production, the composition, all that good stuff? Any feedback, comments? Questions? All right, so I'll let you guys ponder that for a minute, and then I'll move on to the other image. So David is saying, I want to hear more about the post. What else do you want to hear about the post? Elaborate on that, and let me move on to this next image. Okay, so let me transition to my desktop now so you guys could see the next image. All right, so hopefully you guys can still hear me. I could see the level, so you should be able to hear me, so that's still good. All right, awesome. So now we're gonna move on to the second image that was submitted by Mario here. So he's still using the 60D, basically the same lens, the 24 to 105 lens. He's also, he shot this as f4, ISO 100, and his shutter was at 1/200 of a second. He utilized one Canon speedlight with a silver umbrella at full power, camera left. Okay, so let's begin here with the light, okay? So like I said before, I'm not a person that shoot bodybuilders and stuff like that. That's not typically my style. So like I said, I did some research, and before I got into photography like what I'm doing right now, just to figure out different ways on how you're supposed to shoot people. And in the event that I ever wanted to shoot athletes and stuff like that, or bodybuilders, then I would know how to approach it. So with that research, I basically found out that what you want to do with the light is basically have the light elevated above the subject. And the reason you want to have the light elevated above the subject is so that it could carve out that person's muscles and stuff. If they're a bodybuilder, obviously you want the muscles to be pronounced. So in this particular image, the same critique that I had in the previous image about the lighting position is the same critique here. Instead of you having a camera right in the last image that he has it in camera left here. So it's directly camera left, and I would say you would want to have the light above the subject so it could carve out her muscles a little bit more. So that's what I would say about that light. The other thing here is that because he has the light directly camera left, is also lighting up the wall, which I don't know if that was intentional on his part or not, but because he's using an umbrella, the light is firing, all over the place. There's no real control to it. And I think if you had some lights, in addition to this one light that you had, if you had some additional lights, it would have definitely helped in carving out and defining the subject a little bit more. So all the lights that I suggested in the previous image, which is adding 2 additional lights to help, separate the subject from the background, I think that would definitely help. All right. So again, guys, if you have any comments, questions about this image or the previous image, drop those comments down below, so let's have a conversation about it. All right, so now let's move on to the pose in this image. So as I stated in the previous image, I don't shoot, these types of subjects, and I cannot really necessarily critique whether the position in here that she is in is appropriate or not. I would assume it's fine. I myself don't ever go to the gym, so I can't say, if these, positions are fine or not. But I would assume, it's okay. So I can't necessarily critique you there from a posing perspective. But I would say The same issue that we had in the previous image with the subject's eyes is the same issue we have here. She's looking up a little bit too far. She needs to be a little bit more eye level. Maybe she needs to be connected a little bit more with the rope. That's what she's doing. She's working those ropes. So you want to be able to be looking at the rope to draw more attention to it as opposed to drawing attention away from it. So that's what I would say there. And I guess a little bit more intensity, a little bit more expression from the subject will really help sell the fact that she's actually doing something as opposed to just statically standing there, or rather squatting there. So that's what I would say from posing perspective. Actually, I'm going to circle right back around to my lighting again, just really quickly, because I didn't talk about it. But she's getting broad lit on this image, and generally, broad lighting someone is fine. But I think in this particular case, I would have loved to see the light more on camera, right? Lighten up her face a little bit more, because right now her face is a little bit in shadow here, and this part of her is more lit than the front part of her face. I would have loved to see this part of her face a little bit more in shadow. That would have helped with, giving her a little bit more definition on her arm here as well. So I just wanted to circle back really quick and mention that. Okay, so let's move on. So we just talked about lighting, now we talked about the pose. Now we're going to go on to the composition. So from a compositional perspective, I would love to see a little bit more of what's going on with the rope. Probably using the rope a little bit more as a lead-in line into the subject. Right now, the rope is just like, to me, it's not really offering much in the image. So the way the image is cropped, it's like the rope doesn't need to be there. So I would say change your composition just a little bit more so that it was more of a lead-in line into the subject as opposed to just hanging off frame. And then also, as far as the gym is concerned, probably trying to get a little bit more of that environment into the frame also would have helped, in my opinion. And then lastly, this thing that's growing out, well, two things. This thing that's growing out of her back, that's a little bit distracting, but that's also something that could be probably fixed easily in post, like getting this part of it off and, using a clone stamp tool or the healing brush tool to get rid of this part here, and probably get rid of this as well, this stone piece here. And lastly, whatever this is at the top here, I would have tried to get rid of that as well. All right, so that's all I would say with respect to the composition in this particular image. And then the last thing, which goes back to the dodging and burning, like the topic of this particular live broadcast is why dodge and burn is important in post-production. Well, it's very important, and I'm not going to use this image because I already used the other image, but I'll bring up the other image again. And again, I'm pretty much done with this image, but I still want to hear you guys' feedback, if you agree, disagree, or if you see something else different. But just going back to this other image really here that we had here before, like I said, dodging and burn is so important. It just helps really define your subject's face. You got to practice this. You got to practice it. I took like a year and a half practicing this thing, and I'm still practicing it. I'm by no means an expert with respect to the dodging and burning. Well, with respect to quote unquote my light dodging and burning, this is not heavy dodging and burning. This is light dodging and burning, but just correcting the transitions between lights and shadows. So practice dodging and burning. You can still use your frequency separation if you want, but I would say practice dodging and burning. It will definitely help you, creating, those types of high-end images. And this is where I learned it from. Like, I watch retouchers and I'm looking at how they're retouching their images, and I'm like, how are they getting all this details in their image if they're not using frequency separation? Like, how are they doing it? And for the most part, the way they're doing it is they are using dodging and burning. That's what I found. That's what I found in my research. I mean, obviously, there's always an exception to the rule, but that's what I found. For the most part, that's what they use. So I was like, okay, if they're gonna use this, I gotta have to practice on how to use this to make sure that I retain all that details in my subject's face. Now, most folks would say, yes, you could also retain detail utilizing frequency separation by not overdoing it. And that is absolutely true. You could do that. But all you're doing is doing a blur on the color part of the frequency separation. That's all you're doing. You're blurring the skin. And as you can see, blurring the skin and frequency separation here doesn't effectively do what you need it to do. But if you use dodging and burning, it's so much more powerful. Like, look how her face is transformed by utilizing dodging and burning. All right, so that is all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to get off my high horse about that point, and let's just go back here, and let's just talk about how you guys can submit your images, and then we're going to wrap it up. Okay, so at the top of this, I said at the beginning that you guys could submit your images to be critiqued if you wanted to have your images critiqued. If I could speak, if you wanted to have your images critiqued, just go to Facebook, and there's a group in Facebook called Fine Art Photography and Modeling. And if you do a search for that group, ask to join the group. It will ask you 3 questions, and answer those 3 questions, and you will be let into the group. If you don't answer those 3 questions, you will not be let into the group. So answer those questions and you will come in. Once you're in, there's a pinned post at the top of the group. And in that pinned post is where you will submit your images to be critiqued right here. Now, as you could see, in the group is not only about critiquing. You could submit your images and share it with the rest of the group. There's a lot of nice, awesome images in this group that people share. And, you know, if you have yours, dump it in there as well, you know. Okay, so let me switch back to me. And let's hopefully you could still hear me. Hang on. I know you can't hear me. Give me 1 second. I messed that up again. So 1 second. Oh, hang on. 1 second, guys. 1 second. Yeah, this is what happens when you rebuild your PC. These things tend to happen. Okay, you should be able to hear me now. Okay, so let me just read through some of the comments that you guys put here while I was doing that critique on that particular image to see what you guys had to say. So David had put, I want to hear more about the post. So David asked you if you could elaborate a little bit more. I'm hoping that I could see that in the comments. So that was one. And music, film, art lover. Hey, what's up? Thanks you for tuning in. I came in late, so we'll have to watch the beginning later. Okay. Yeah, be sure you watch the beginning. Be sure you share the video as well. Give it a thumbs up if you haven't already. And put some comments down below after the video is no more live. Let's see here. So David also put, this is what I wanted to hear more on. You always talk about it. Why is it better than frequency separation? More fine grain control. So I think I elaborated on that, but I'll talk about it a little bit more. So off the top, like I said, I do utilize frequency separation when I'm in a rush. Okay, that's a given. But when I'm working on a particular portrait and I want to, deliver the quote unquote the best work that I think I'm going to deliver, and maintain that quality and follow the standards that I think that other retouchers are following, then dodging and burning is definitely my go-to. Like, I don't ever touch frequency separation at all. I just focus completely on dodging and burning. I do the light dodging and burning, my quote unquote light dodging and burning. Then I actually do the heavy dodging and burning, which is defining the features a little bit more. So that's what I do today. And I would definitely recommend that if you haven't tried it, give it a shot. You know, you will definitely see the difference. Like I showed you guys the difference between the frequency separation that I did on that image versus the dodging and burning. You definitely get a lot more control. Your images look totally different than when you're utilizing frequency separation. Like you could see the skin is blurred when you're using frequency separation versus a person that just used dodging and burning. Look at a high-end retoucher's work. I'm not a high-end retoucher, but look at a high-end retoucher's work versus a person that uses frequency separation, and you will definitely see what the difference is. So I hope that answered your question, David. Okay, so let's continue here. So music, film, art lover, is Facebook the only way I can? Is Facebook the only way? I am not on Facebook. Currently, Facebook is the only way. But I guess you could tweet at me if you have Twitter. You could tweet at me and, you know, send me your images that way as well. You know, say, hey, please critique this image. But I'm working on something else where you can actually submit images to be critiqued. So currently, Facebook is the only way, but there are some stuff that I'm working on that will hopefully make it give you some other options. Let's put it that way. All right, but I guess if you're on Twitter or you know Instagram or anything like that, I guess you could tag me in it, but it's difficult for me to track those things. With Facebook, is a little bit more contained. So I hope that was helpful. So David Millsap says, nope. I don't know what nope was supposed to be for. And then, I guess that's when I was asking if you guys could hear me and stuff like that. So I got it. So now we can, great. And then talking about dodging and burning. And then James Neely, I'm guessing either you're catching up to the feed now, or because I think your nope probably was about if you could hear me or not. And then your follow-up comment about now we can is probably about that as well. So music film lover says, okay, thanks, Ernesto. Okay, awesome. I hope that was helpful. All right, so if you guys don't have any additional questions, I will try to wrap it up here. So I give you guys a few minutes to think about that. While you're thinking about that, if you guys haven't checked out the Sunday video that I put out, go ahead and check that out. It's another post-production video. I've been trying to do a lot more of those post-production videos because you guys have been asking me about that. So I'm putting it out there so you guys could see what my process is. I am waiting. I know I'm giving you a chance to frame up your questions. So I'm trying to fill the dead air here. So go ahead and craft your question. So yeah, I've been trying to put out a lot of more those post-production videos. I'll probably get better with it over time. I'm not totally happy with how I, put them together, but over time I will get better, hopefully. Just like with everything else, it gets better with time. So I'll put more of those out. If you guys have any specific questions about any type of post-production and stuff like that, hit me up. I'm readily available on most of my social media. So send me a message, put a comment down below the video, and I'll definitely, get back and, do a video specifically about that in post-production. So Music film art lovers have a question here, and her question is: on the row picture, it should have been 3 lights: backlight, side light, and then front light. In the row picture, so let's bring up the row picture here again, so we all on the same page. Okay, so let's bring that up. So in the row picture, I'll answer that second question about the dodging and burning, but let's answer the first question about the lighting. So in the row picture, what I was saying here is that one, the light was on camera left, so basically is broad lighting the subject here, and is also lighting up the wall. If that was the photographer's intent, job well done. However, if that wasn't intent and he was just using that because that was his default way of trying to light this image, I would have said to him, or if it was me, I would have basically said, okay, let's move the light to camera right. So I'll probably position the light a little bit more higher up above her head to camera right. So probably where this rope is, beyond the rope, closer to the wall, and the light would have been elevated above her eye level. Okay, and then it would have light up her face here. That's what I would put the first light, and that would have light up her face here, and that would have put this part of her face in shadow, which is her left side of her face. It would have put that left side of her face in shadow, which is typically how I shoot, because it would help define the subject a little bit more. Okay, so that will be the first thing that I would have done. The second thing that I would have done with this particular image is that I would have put a light behind the subject here, so that it could just define, give her a little bit of a rim light here, and probably highlight her here a little bit here as well. And those would probably be the 2 lights that I would have used in this particular shot. A third light probably would have been necessary, and a third light would probably have been would have showed up in the shot anyways. So those would have been the 2 lights I would have used in this particular setup. So I hope I answered that question. Then your other question was, could the photographer use dodge and burn on the arms? They can, but the problem is because this part of the body is lit up so much, if you go back to this original image here, right? If you go back to this image here, like, I think, if you look at their abs, right? I think, and this is just my opinion, I think that he did this in post. Like, he tried to define or get a little bit more muscle out of this image by doing some heavy dodging and burning in post. If it was lit from above, basically showing or positioning the light as opposed to camera right in this image, and not, if you were to position it here above the subject, then the light would have hit at the top here, hit the bottom, and it would have been a little bit more defined, in my opinion. So that's what I would think there. I think he did a lot of dodging and burning in this image to get that muscle. And another thing that I noticed in this image is that if you look at her bust area here, you could see that there's a clear patch here that's just missing. So I don't know if that's as a result of dodging and burning, or if that's a result of tanning. Not sure. But there's definitely some more work that could be done in this image from a post-production perspective. So music film art lover pretty much indicated, followed up here with, yep, I see how he did it in post. The side gives it away. And also she said it looks like tanning. Yeah, it could be tanning, but that's a weird area for tanning. Like, there's no other line. Like, if she was out, oh, maybe she took the line, the thing off, the string maybe. Because you would think there would have been a string here to connect. But anyways, yeah, it could be tannin. But then again, you would have to blend that in post so it's not as distracting, right? So I would have taken some of the color from here and put it here so it doesn't appear to be so distracting. Yes, I definitely agree. Music film lover, but he could have fit that in post with a copy. Yes. And it could very well be a bra strap. So let me switch this back. Somebody put me on. Let's see if someone sent the request live on Facebook. And then I could show you guys. No one sends a request live. Also, I'll show you guys how the request comes through on Facebook. All right, so let's switch back here. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. All right, so that's it. This was, I think, the longest show that we ever done of the Monday Critique, and that's a testament to you guys basically engaging with comments and stuff like that. So I definitely appreciate the feedback and everything that you guys put during the show. I hope that what I had to say was helpful to you. I hope that you could take it and apply it to your craft. And if you do, please tag me in your post so that I could see what you guys have to put out there. And if you're part of the Facebook group, when you post your images, if you did use one of the techniques, please tag me and let me know. It will certainly let me know what I'm saying is helpful or not helpful. So drop those comments, not only in the comments down below, but tag me in some of your social media if you are using some of the techniques that we're talking about. All right, so that said, guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Put some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Share this video with your friends and family. If you think the tips that I was given in this particular video or the feedback that I was given in this particular video was helpful to you, and you think it will be helpful to someone else, share the video with them. Let them, see it. Let them become aware of the channel. And if they like what they're seeing, maybe they'll subscribe. Now, if you're new to the channel and you got this far in the video and you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.